The Apostle Peter says he went around doing good and healing all. Through missions, we seek to provide healthcare for a lasting change during our actual global wisdom conferences in different countries with our skilled medical physicians, experienced surgeons, and professional health workers. Partner with us now and help us spread the gospel of Jesus Christ around the world and take it to places where you may not be able to go yourself. Together, we can make a difference in somebody's life today. To give your donation, visit our website at www.globalwisdommissions.com and donate via our PayPal link or register your interest at wisdomconference3@gmail.com.
Hello, viewers out there. Good evening, and thank you once again for making a date with us tonight. My name is Maud, and I've got a lovely set of panelists here who will be sharing with us a little bit more about mental health. I'm going to start off with Dr. Amy Oku. She's going to introduce herself, then we'll move on to Pastor Sari. And could you just let us know, viewers, where you are watching us from tonight? And as usual, make sure you're sharing the link with your family and friends, call people together, sit, and then be blessed by Dr. Amy and Pastor Sari B. Right, Dr. Amy, could you please introduce yourself to us? Thank you.
Hi, hello, is it good evening there or good afternoon? You know, the
so
time
US all around, so it's afternoon and evening. I should have said that.
So my name is Dr. Amy Oku, but everybody calls me Auntie Amy. I'm more comfortable with that. And I just moved from Ghana to the US. I'm a licensed counselor, and basically with church. And I'm really privileged to be here this evening to share with everybody.
Thank you so much, Auntie Amy. That's such a lovely name. Thank you so much. And Pastor Sari B, could you please introduce yourself to us? Thank you.
Yes, my name is also Pastor Sari B. Diakon. I'm also a licensed professional counselor and a pastor by calling. I'm here in Atlanta, Georgia. The pastor of Harvest Chapel, Atlanta branch, and I work with also the city of Atlanta doing counseling services for the city. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much once again for agreeing to join us tonight as we share and be a blessing to our viewers. Could you tell us, viewers, where you are watching from tonight, and do share the link? I'll be posting your comments. If you have any questions, please feel free to type it in, and we are going to get our experts today to help answer those questions. So we are talking about mental health. Now, I'm going to start with Auntie Amy. Auntie Amy, what do we mean by the term mental health?
Anytime we talk about mental health, it becomes an issue that maybe we all need more explanation. But when we talk about mental health, we are really talking about emotions and psychological and social well-being. I want to just simplify it by saying we are talking about how we think, feel, and act. So when you talk about mental health, you are talking about how anyone thinks, feels, and acts, and that helps us to handle stress or relate with others and make choices. Just to summarize that.
Thank you so much. I think that's a really good down-to-earth summary that, if you are, whether you are a lay person or not, that brings out the meaning. So thank you. That's really good. Pastor Sari B, you could always chip in, and Auntie Amy, if one is talking, you could always chip in if you feel like you have to. Moving on then, Pastor Sari B, so why is mental health important? Why is it important to us as Christians, as workers of the Lord's Vineyard, as people who are into ministry? Why is it important?
Yeah, so when we talk about mental health or mental wellness, is really important because when it comes to our brain, see it as the central control system of everything a person does, right? So when something is wrong with your brain, or something is wrong with the way your brain is processing things. Let me put it that way, because there might not be something specifically wrong with your brain, like a disease, but the way and manner in which your brain is processing things, then it becomes like a computer with a hard drive that has been infected, by a virus or something. It will either become slow or malfunction or refuse to perform what it is supposed to do. And so, in that same way, our brain is what determines how we feel, how we react, how we act, how we do everything is central to our brain. Whether you're a Christian or an unbeliever, so long as you're a human being, your brain is the most important part. If I take your brain from your head and I am able to put it into another person's head, the body that is no longer you, it is the brain. So whatever head occupies the new body becomes the new brain, becomes you. So you are actually your brain. And that is why the health of your brain is really important. Your mental health, how you process things, how you see things, how you handle things. Anytime there is a glitch on your brain, then it becomes an infection. And that kind of affects how you do everything. So, yes, it's really important for a Christian, unbeliever, everybody to make sure that they have a sound mind in a sound body.
Yes.
Right.
And even the Bible even says that whatsoever a man thinketh, so is he.
Yes.
So however you think, that is how it's going to affect you. So it's very, very important that we learn to think right, or we process right.
Right. Thank you. So, Auntie Amy, does it mean that when you're talking about mental health, should we be booking appointments to see psychiatrists? Should we be seeing therapists or counselors? Or how do we take care of our mental health? Does it mean we should be like doing an MOT on our mind to find out how we are doing?
What I would say is that let's even look at it in terms of physical health. Anytime, when do you go to the hospital? So there should be something that will let you really go to the hospital. We could have a minor headache, and that doesn't mean you have to go to the hospital. So the same way with our mental thinking, it could be that something is making you think off, and depending on what it is, so it should be a case-by-case base. For instance, if somebody all of a sudden is bubbly and it doesn't want to go out anymore, and maybe because something happened, so you have to look at the case. Something happened, it's going on a week, 2 weeks, then we have to be concerned. But as human beings, once in a while, something whatever is going on in our environment might affect us and make us not maybe think right. And that is why we have all kinds of support systems around us that we need to be drawing from before we go see the psychiatrist. So I really believe that it's very, very important that every one of us, I always talk about connections or relations. We have different relations, maybe a sister to talk to, your pastor to talk to, before we realize that, no, maybe this is something serious before you go. So yes, that is what I'll say. Reverend.
And talking about mental wellness or mental health does not necessarily mean that you have to go see a psychiatrist. Like she said, it's not every time that you have a headache that you run to the doctor. It's not every time you have a tummy ache that you take medicine. There are things that you do to stay healthy. There are people who drink water first thing in the morning to make sure that their system is okay. There are people who exercise on a regular basis. Anything a person is doing, there are people who cut out on oils or fluid or whatever it is, right, to make sure that their body is functioning right. So when we are talking about mental health also, is what is a person doing, to make sure that their mind is also acting right. And so if your mind is right, you don't need to see a psychiatrist. You don't have to see a counselor if everything is going the way it's supposed to go. In the same way, if you are healthy all through the year. You don't need to go to the hospital unless maybe for your yearly checkups. You know, so if everything is right with you, you don't need a doctor. If everything is right with you, you don't need a psychiatrist or a counselor. But what that means is that you should take precaution to do the necessary. You are exercising, you are eating right, you are doing whatever you have to do. It's the same when it comes to mental health. So long as you are processing things right, you are getting off or getting the stress and the anxiety, the trauma, whatever, off effectively and using very good coping strategies, you don't really ever have to see a psychiatrist.
Right. Right. I've just picked up on a few keywords that you've used, and along the line, I'll be asking you to elaborate if that's okay. I want to say hello to Don Alexander. Thank you for joining in. Tell us where you're watching from, Don Alexander. We can see you. Tell us where you're watching from. And everyone else, I can see some people there, but I don't know where you're watching from. So tell us where you're watching from so we could give you a shout out. Right. Pastor, sorry, I want to come to you then. So what are some of the effects of having a good mental health? What are some of the effects of having a good mental health? Generally, how would it make you feel?
So when a person has a good mental health, what it means is that they have effective coping strategies, right? We all deal with different things. And so somebody may be dealing with stress from work, somebody may be dealing with marital stress, child raising stress, divorce stress. You are a pastor, you are dealing with stress of making sure church is running, what is needed, whatever. You are a Christian, you are dealing with stress with even living a righteous life, whatever. Whatever we are dealing with affects us. Now, if a person at any point has the coping tools that are necessary to deal with whatever stresses are coming on into their life, then they are mentally healthy. However, when you don't have the needed coping tools to deal with whatever stress you are dealing with, then it becomes a problem for you or to you, however you want to put it. And then at that instance, you may need external help. So if you are coping effectively with your stress, somebody may be going through divorce, they will handle it beautifully. Another person will be going through divorce and they feel suicidal. The difference is that one has coping tools to deal with it, the other doesn't. Somebody may go through job loss, they will be feeling fine. Another person may go through job loss and they will be depressed to the letter. So again, your coping skills, your ability to process it, and all that is what distinguishes somebody who has a very good or healthy mental health from one who is not.
All right, thank you so much. Pastor Alex, I think you're on the wrong, you used the wrong login code. So you have to use the StreamYard one, because where you are is for the viewers and I can't admit you in from YouTube. So if you go on to the StreamYard link that you received, that will help you to be able to log in. Thank you so much. Right, thank you, Pastor Sarivi. Auntie Amy, what are some of the effects of not having a good mental health state then? And then if you could, let's deal with that first, and then I'll move on to the next one. Thank you.
Okay, so basically I'm adding on to what Reverend said. So the other thing is being able to make choices. Because if you don't have good mental health, you'll not be able to make good choices. You'll not be able to relate well with others. So those are things that shows whether you are mentally sound. So like he said, being able to deal with stresses which are unavoidable, whether we like it or not, we live in a society and you have to relate with people. And whether you like it or not, you have to make choices every day, whether you are turning left or you are turning right. When you are working, you being able to make a choice about what to do. So you realize that is very, very important to be able to do all that. Very, very important.
Thank you. Pastor Saribi, you started talking about coping mechanism, coping techniques. So what are some of these coping techniques that we should have? And then if you don't have it, then you know that, okay, so maybe I don't have it, so maybe I should start reevaluating my mental health.
So when you talk about coping tools or coping strategies, it's dependent on a person and what they are dealing with. So let me give you an example. If somebody doesn't have an effective communication skill or effective communication coping tool, right, and they are in a relationship, they will be super stressed because the other person may say, hey, you are not talking to me, especially when couples come into counseling and stuff like that. He has great ideas or she has great ideas, it's never communicated. And because of that, there is always a clash or a conflict at home, and everybody is super stressed and all that, right? At this point, the marriage has become unhealthy simply because that tool of effective communication is missing. So if a person has effective communication tool, right, and they are able to express themselves, they have interpersonal effectiveness skill, they have different kind of skills, and some of these things can easily be learned, right? So if a person has the skills that are needed to deal with their particular problem, they will always be healthy. So, like even effective communication skill, which is very important as we dealing with human beings, right? Some people it's assertiveness skill. For some people, they have low self-esteem, and they will have to do a different kind of evaluation of themselves to bring themselves at par to where they need to be. And so, when you talk of for skills, it's very different and very diverse, dependent on what a person is dealing with. But the bottom line is, and for somebody, it might even just be sleep, sleep, the ability to sleep. Having a good sleep hygiene is a skill, something that a lot of pastors don't even have. We have pastors who have to pick up their phone all the time. They don't sleep when they have to sleep. They don't do things they have to do. At the end of the day, they are dealing with headache. They are dealing with anxiety. I watched a video once of a pastor or a man of God who collapsed and died on stage whilst preaching because he was super stressed. If you don't have a good sleep hygiene, you don't have adequate tools. So again, dependent upon a person's problem, you need the tool that you need to deal with that problem. So just like if you are fixing a table, you may need maybe a Phillips screwdriver or a Star screwdriver or an Allen key or a wrench or whatever it is. And so, what is your problem? Do you have the necessary tools to deal with it?
Right. Thank you. Welcome, Pastor Alex. Good to see you.
Nice seeing you all. Sorry I jumped into the wrong distance. I wonder why I was not on, but I'm here now.
Yes, well done.
Very good point. I think I caught up with what dear brother, I can't see the surname.
Asari.
Yeah, but Asari was saying. I didn't hear the question, but I think I quite understand it to be the fact that we need to also, as ministers, need to look after our mental health. Rest is very pivotal to what we do, and effective ministration is very reliant on very good memory. I know of some ministers who would jump from meeting to meeting and have little rest, and in between ministration, their memories lapses a lot, and I see it from time to time. They're preaching and they're on the floor and nothing stops them, but you can see that then their own memory has lapsed, and it goes back, try to go back to get back what they want to say. And you can see that because I was in mental health, I was able to understand and see that he has not rested enough. And rest is very, very pivotal to what we do. Quite apart from that, myself, I sat in a car with a very top minister, very, very top minister. And then he's finished administration for 3-4 days in one city, going to another city. He was not driving, somebody was driving, and in the middle of the way, we had an accident. We saw an accident. We wanted to go and help. He jumped out of his sleep. And whilst we finished we finished helping the people, he collapsed in front of me. It wasn't any demon. It was because he has not had enough rest. And then he jumped out of the car to go and help. We talked to them. We tried to help them. Whilst we were going back to board the car to travel, that's when he collapsed. Do you get me? So rest is very, very pivotal to what we do as ministers. I will say a little bit more, but at least it's important that we look after our own mental health. We cannot
Thank you very much.
take it for granted.
Yeah. Pastor Alex, since you started talking about rest, what is rest? Because I think as adults, as Christians, we sometimes struggle with the idea of rest, because how do you tell the difference between someone being lazy and someone genuinely getting some rest? What is
Okay.
rest? If you were to define it, how would you do it?
We're doing mental health, and we know, I'm sure we haven't started talking about depression, but what rest is resting, number one, resting your body and your mind.
Right.
Some people can rest your body, but you cannot rest your mind, and that is what leads to you not being able to get good sleep. And I don't think that time will allow me to do sleep hygiene here, but then we should have period of time that we set ourselves that we are going to take some rest at a certain point in time during the course of the day. It can be at night or in the morning. Of course, as a minister, you'll be praying, you'll be studying, and you'll be ministering. You jump from one meeting to another meeting and from one work to another work. But having a time to say that I'm going to take everything out of the situation and settle myself to rest. I'm not going to answer calls or do this or do that. I'm going to set a time out. We at a certain age, you need minimum 6 hours, maximum 8 hours to rest. You need to observe that. If you have to look after your own mental health, sleep. When I say rest, I mean sleep. Not just resting and relaxing, sleep. To rebuild your mind and your mental health is very important. Let's face the fact. I don't know if you guys are very conversant to working night. Studies have shown that people who work nights a lot, they reduce their age. And effectively, it also reduces your retention and memory. I am a very good example. When I was about, I'm now 25 anyway. When I was about, say 15 years ago, 20 years ago, I used to jump from night to night. I can do 3 months of nights and it would not affect me. Give me daytime, I'll do it as well. But as time went on, I realized that I'm not of that age anymore. And my nighttime sleep is very important. I can sleep and wake up and sleep again, but I need to make sure that I get enough sleep. Lack of sleep affects our memory big time. It affects our concentration big time. And we know that as the beginning, I'm sure you talked about what affects our mental health. Our ability to remember is very, very good in us functioning a lot during the daytime in whatever we want to do. So rest means sleep, basically.
Lovely. Thank you.
And I like that. Sleep hygiene is something we cannot take for granted. So talking about sleep hygiene, it means that we should have designated times that we are sleeping, right? And we must pipe down or tune down to sleep. There must be times that, these days we are so distracted by the telephone. People have television in their bedroom because God has blessed them. But what you don't know is that having that TV in your bedroom is affecting your sleep. You have a cell phone, you are looking at that blue screen. Some people are sleeping, their phone is on their bedside, and then you hear a chime, bang, and then you pick it up and look. All that is affecting you. So you are just weakening your own immune system, not giving your mind time to replenish, and making any problem worse than it should be.
Thank you, Pastor Saribi. Churchill, thank you for joining us tonight. Where are you watching from? And share the link with family and friends. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Right. Okay, I'm going to come to Auntie Amy then. Auntie Amy, do you think that as ministers of the gospel, they have a peculiar set of stresses that they are exposed to due to the nature of their jobs?
Certainly they do. I mean, you are leading people, that pressure of leading people. Just imagine that maybe your congregation is not growing. That can build some kind of anxiety. If you feel you are led to do something, maybe it involves money, and you've gone for money and you're not able, you don't know how you are going to pay back. I mean, those, or you have workers and you have to pay, and you have congregations who are not paying their tithes and all that. I mean, you have those things building some kind of anxiety and stress on you, because you know you are accountable to some people and you don't know how to go about it. So that too. And then as a minister, sometimes it's a lonely world, because whatever you go through, you are very careful not to share with everybody, because you are supposed to be the face of faith, and everybody is looking out to you. You are the one, the healer. You are praying for healing and you find yourself sick. And so how do you deal with that? So it becomes a little bit stressful if you don't handle it very well.
Thank you. Pastor Sarbi, do you want to add to the stresses that ministers are exposed to?
Oh, yes, I'm a minister myself, so I can talk about 1,000. So she said a couple of them. The stress with running church. People don't realize that when you are dealing with people, and I'm also a counselor, so I get this from a different angle. When you are dealing with people, you take on second-hand trauma, right? Just like in learning, you have vicarious learning, things that happen to you but are not directly related to you, but through association. Let me break it down for it to make more sense. And I may get in trouble for saying this, but let me say it anyway. It's like some of our ladies, they will watch a movie, they know it's a movie, but it's so emotional, they start crying. Why are you watching a movie and crying?
Thank you.
It's a movie that you are watching. Why are you crying? Because you found yourself attached to the character of the movie. You are going through their emotions, their ups and downs with them. And so when something traumatic happened to them, they are in their feelings. Some people will have tissue, they'll be crying. They are wrapped in their blood. And it's a movie. Why are you crying? Because you are tied to it, right? That emotional roller coaster, you are going with it as the movie is going on. Now, that is one thing that happens to almost every pastor. And sometimes some men of God don't realize, right? And so you are working with church members and you are going on their emotional roller coaster with them. We rejoice with those who rejoice and we mourn with those who mourn. So this person is dealing with divorce. They are calling you, pastor. They are crying. Your emotion is with them. This person is dealing with anxiety. Your emotion is with them. Another person has childbirth. Your emotion is with them. Somebody needs fasting. Your emotion is with them. So you are also going through people's roller coasters, right? And unfortunately, because the congregation is not one person or like one character in the movie, they are complex. In my life as a minister, I remember one time many years ago, I had to bury somebody on a Saturday and ordain a wedding on a Sunday. No, it was actually I buried somebody Saturday morning, ordained the wedding on Saturday afternoon, and did the naming on Sunday morning. And all these are different kinds of emotions, right? So all the roller coaster that you are going through, it affects you. It does something to you. And because when people are dealing with trauma, you also experience their trauma secondhand. What happens is that if you don't find an effective way of dealing with it, it puts you in a place where before you know, either you become emotionally insensitive, or you become depressed, or you are experiencing anxiety, you're experiencing panic attacks, you are in a confused state, you don't know, you think it's the devil that is attacking you and all kinds of things. Meanwhile, the devil has nothing to do with it. So it is very important to make sure that you understand what you are dealing with. Empathy and sympathy is good, But if you don't know what you are dealing with, that can affect you and make you emotionally numb or super sensitive or whatever it is. So that to me is more than even the church growth. Of course, church growth, people not paying tithe, people gossiping about pastor, your wife, your shoe, your car, your hair, your head, everything you gossip about. But those ones are not even as important to me as the emotional roller coaster people's journeys will go on with them.
Pastor Alex, so
Yes,
how should a pastor manage their own emotions and their mental health as they go through this? Like in one day, you do a funeral, you do christening, you do wedding, you go and pray for someone who's sick, the person didn't get healed. And how do you deal with all this? How should a minister be?
Number one is acknowledging that we are human and not superhuman. We are not spirits, and so the human body is made to take rest. Quite apart from that, acknowledging our limitations and also acknowledging the fact that we have to know how to also manage those stresses when they come along. Okay, sometimes might even mean, that's as our senior pastor was saying, that it might even mean that getting some support from another colleague or another senior minister when you're going through a stressful period, because it's not everybody that you can go to that can support you and give you stress. So we in health in general, we call it body system, but in ministry we call it maybe your mentor, your father, your colleague, somebody that you can get on with, to get somebody that you can lean on and speak to when you are taking stresses. It could be what people are saying about you that you know are not true, and how to handle it and handle it properly. You need to be able to have a go-to, so to say, a go-to. In work, we say maybe your manager, a friend, or a supervisor. But sometimes you want to deal with it at a very low level, so you go to a colleague that probably has faced similar situation or will know how to help and counsel. Sometimes we need counseling ourselves. Okay. Quite apart from that, we also have to know our stress level. Everybody know what they can take. What I can take, maybe Pastor Sai might not be able to take, and what will break him down will actually make me. So we differ in different ways, just as our personalities also differ in various ways. We need to know what breaks us, and so when these things are coming, we need to know how to seek help. Going to seek help does not anywhere mean that we are not strong enough, or whatever. It rather means that we are aware of what we can or cannot handle. I don't know if that's
Yeah, very pleased with that. Thank you. Auntie Amy, I was thinking about sometimes when you're growing up and you have, let's say you have a brother and a sister, and with the brothers or with the boys, they're expected to be tough, they're expected to behave in a certain way, and sometimes parents or family members would say you're behaving like a girl, that's a girlish behavior. And so men or male are forced to put up this facade of I'm tough, I can handle everything, I can deal with everything. Do you think that this sort of attitude and culture does affect them, especially when they become ministers, to trust and speak to someone like Pastor Alex was saying, finding a go-to person? Do you think at that point it makes it really hard for them to trust and have a go-to person to discuss some of these issues with?
Sometimes depending on how people have placed you in society, that puts a lot of burden on you. So as a pastor of faith, just imagine that you've preached about faith so powerfully, and then you are struggling with something. Who do you go to? So then, like you're saying, it becomes very, very important that we really find the support systems around us to fall on. Because society sometimes puts on unnecessary demands on men or on pastors, feeling they are not human. They also have families, they have jobs, they have wants, they have needs, but then it's ignored. We see them as super humans who have all the answers and they are able to do everything. They can't do anything wrong. So I mean, if he's struggling even with his family, how then does the pastor then say that I'm struggling with my marriage or something like that? So you would have to put up a strong face, because if a pastor doesn't do wrong, a pastor cannot have any issues. And because if they do, then maybe they are not strong in their faith. So we have really put them in that place of them not being able to really help themselves sometimes. And there's a story about a pastor who was really into faith and became diabetic, and was struggling with taking medication, because I've been telling people to pray for healing. And why should I then take medication? So it's a very lonely place to be, as I stated before, because to really open up to somebody, you really have to be careful, because if you are not careful, like as Pastor Alexander was saying, you need to find a father or a mentor or the right people to talk to. Other than that, it's you don't want to break down the confidence of your congregants too. You can't just, so I mean, being in leadership is not easy. It's a lonely place to be, and it's very, 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 very important that you build a support system around you to hold you up. People who understand what it means to stand in those roles and hold you up, and be the confidants. I mean, confidants that would hold your hands and help you, so it doesn't become a scandal, if that's how I should put it.
Thank you. Does anyone want to add to that before I move on?
I want to add to what our dear sister Amy was saying. This is very practical. It happened not so long ago. Where I work, I still work. There has been me and my other colleague, we are in middle management. And we're supposed to be 4 of us, but because of shortage, we only 2 at the moment. And so what happened that we're so stressed at work, irrespective of whatever. Quite apart from that, those who are our grade are also very much short of staff. So the stresses are there. 2 people doing the work of 4. We're supposed to have a top manager. We don't have one. We have a service manager. So we're doing everything that we have to do. But then my other colleague gets so stressed that when he gets stressed, he goes to the junior colleagues. And then he got so angry with our manager that it's a lady. She started talking to the junior colleagues and instigating them to leave. And now she's passing her stresses on to them. Not only was she doing that, even somebody who has just joined us within 2 weeks, she went to sit down with this person, because the person has come from a psychology background. She's only a student psychologist, completed, not even practiced in her job. She went to sit down, and all that she came to tell me, oh, this one is leaving, that one wants to leave, this one wants to leave. I tell you that my manager is not good, because she's stressed. She didn't know how to handle it. So and then she went to some of the colleagues. They told her, go off sick. I told her in confidence, I said, look, you're a manager. When somebody needs to come to you, I'd rather you speak to somebody outside this place than come to the colleagues. She could not handle her stresses well. She went to some of the junior colleagues. There's nothing bad with that if you have confidence in them. But I don't talk to more than one person, about 3 or 4 or 5 people. She told herself. Then she went home and went to tell her colleague, you can see how stressful, but you need to know who to go to, who can help you and support you and not spread the news. I'm not saying that the people came and told other people, but my worry is that she was talking to the wrong persons, not just one person, wrong person. So when we're so stressed, normally we say that you don't make decisions when you are stressed, because any decision you make will be based on the stresses you are. So you got to know who to go to the right person, confidentiality, and whatever is very important. In ministry, the same thing. It's not everybody that you can go to. And be careful if you are talking to the congregants, because they really spread a lot of things.
Yeah, thank you, Pastor Alex. Pastor Saribi, do you think that as a result of the stresses or ministers not being able to manage or look after their mental health state, do you think it could lead to depression amongst them?
No, yeah. Uh, so depression is something that is very common with a lot of ministers. They may not talk about it, whether it's depression or anxiety. I've had men of God that are so, actually, even in my private practice, I have seen people who don't even know I'm a minister, but I thank God that I'm able to hide as a counselor and still help them in ministry, because they are dealing with issues that they don't know how to deal with. So, yes, pastors suffer from depression and from any and everything that anybody can suffer from. When you are a pastor, you are not superhuman. You are not exempt from anything. I don't know how to put it. You are not exempt. Yes, God gives grace, but the grace He gives to you, He gives to everybody. And there are times when things happen. And when things happen and you need help, you need help. I tell people, even Jesus Himself, His cross is supposed to be His cross, but on the road to Calvary, somebody had to help Him carry it small. Jesus didn't carry the cross from beginning to end. He had help. And so when you come to the place of understanding that you may also need help, it reduces the instances of you being depressed or you being anxious or feeling some kind of way because things are not going the way you expect it to go. And then a lot of it is also dependent on how you interpret things, like Auntie Amy was saying, some people think that, oh, because I'm a minister, everything should work right. I'm talking about faith. Here I am, I call diabetes. If I take medicine, then it means I don't have faith or whatever it is, All those are things that we impose on ourselves. In fact, God never imposed any of that on us. Paul said that once there was a thorn in his flesh. I don't know what thorn he was talking about. 3 times he prayed to God to take it away. It didn't go away. He said, my grace is sufficient for you. That means that Paul find a way of dealing with it. Even though I can heal you, I won't heal you. Whatever it is, I don't know what it was, but it was a thorn in his flesh, right? Think of it. This is the same Paul who can send his handkerchief and he will go and cause healing. The same Paul who can raise a dead body. Why is it that as for his own tongue, it won't go away? Does it mean he's faithless? No. Sometimes God gives us grace to deal with the things we need to deal with, to remind us that we are humans also and to humble us. So if we have our minds right, we will not sit down and organize pity party for ourselves and wallow in depression or anxiety or whatever it is.
Thank you. Thank you. Pastor Alex, what are some of the symptoms of depression? Because we are talking about depression, and maybe someone is even depressed, but they don't know they are depressed because they refuse to accept or use that word depressed. But what are some of the symptoms, so that by looking at those symptoms, we can all do an individual assessment to see whether we're okay or actually.
I think from the onset, I don't remember when I logged into the wrong platform. I heard somebody saying that, probably still saying that, oh, we all get sad. We have moments that we get sad. It's normal human behavior for something to upset you and you feel sad about it. But it becomes depression when it goes beyond 2 weeks and it's consistent. It's almost every day. Okay. Some of the common symptoms of depression is feeling very low in mood. Now, you feel so sad all the time, most of the time. Nothing is able to cheer you up, pep you up. Okay? And I've talked about the symptoms. I'm sure you may ask for the causes. You're very low in mood. Some people, the symptoms are also such that they tend to sleep a lot. They become very lethargic. They have no energy at all to wake up, do anything. They begin to lack interest in a thing that they will normally find pleasure in. Like even eating becomes a problem for them. Their best food, they don't enjoy it anymore. And to be quite honest, when sleep becomes a problem, it can either be sleeping too much or too little. Too much, not that they are sleeping all the time, they are always in bed. they seclude themselves. When I say seclude, they self-isolate. They have no interest in socializing with other people, not going out, seeing friends, not talking to them. They withdraw from all other services, all other activities that they would normally go to, and it would take them a lot of effort by others to be able to, for them to enjoy those things. When you begin to see some of these things, they are signs of depression. Some people, to as an extreme end, they become very irritable about even people talking to them. Sometimes little noise agitates them so much, so well that you can't find what their normal day-to-day functions get affected in every way possible. For example, if they have to go to work, they are very slowly doing that. Sometimes it affects even their speed, the way they speak, you know. What else? Let
Well,
me
the
go.
master load of all depression, when a person becomes helpless and hopeless, that feeling of hopelessness and helplessness, and for some people they start having suicidal ideations because then life is better without me. I don't add anything to the world. That's the master load. When you have gone through all the stages, being in a dark room, self-isolating, not eating, all the funny things you tell yourself, and there's something funny about depression. A person can be depressed and people around them not know because they come out of their shell and function in public. And once they are back in their homes, that they are in their dark room, wallowing in self-pity and whatnot. I think that, I don't know if you all heard it, but in America last year or 2 years ago, Miss USA in New York, it looked like she's a lawyer. Everything is going on well and fine with her. She jumped from the 42nd floor of a building and killed herself in the morning when nothing was going on. Last year here in Atlanta, the CEO of Malta, which is in England they call it the tube system or whatever. After talking about the yearly profit and how he has turned the company around, that same evening he went and killed himself with the same trains that he managed and that he talks success about. There was a guy who used to do TV show, go from country to country, something Bourdain, Anthony Bourdain or Bourdain or something. He traveled around the world. He visited different cultures. I used to look at him. I'm like, man, how I wish I had that job. Eating in different places. He had the best of jobs. After one of the shows, he went into his hotel room and committed suicide. And we have a lot of celebrities and a lot of singers, actors, people in famous places. When they are out there, you think that the whole world belongs to them. But then when they go away, they suffer in silence. So depression is a very serious silent killer. And you can be a pastor, you can be an actor in the pulpit. What do I mean? You can preach with vim and shouting and jumping and the church responding and whatnot. But then when you go back home, you know what the truth is. So all these signs are there. When you see it, don't ignore it, if the symptoms are persistent.
I forgot to say this, but let me add to it. I was talking about lack of interest. Let's look for the word anhedonia. And it gets very extreme when it affects your libido as well. And this is something people ignore. When you live with your partner and they might do everything for you. If it is your married partner and you see that their libido, so for example, if they don't eat, you might say that, maybe they are fasting or they are not more interested in food. That's fine, we will have it. But one of the things that will let you know when their libido reduces to an extent that nothing pushes them, nothing stimulates them, it becomes very worrying. And as our senior pastor said, the extreme end of it is when they end it all. It is very, very important that we look after our mental health. Very, very, especially depression. May I add that depression even kills more than accidents in the world.
Yeah.
People commit more suicide than car killing people. And that is how serious that thing can do to us. And it's everyday life. We get low for one reason or the other, but we need to know how to come out of it.
Let's talk about some of the how-tos then very quickly. Healing Ring Support keeps, I think he's just, I'm not sure whether it's a he or a she, but Healing Ring Support is 100% in support. He says, thanks for the insight. Absolutely, yes. So right on point. Thank you so much. So let's talk about the how-to. How do you shake off this feeling of hopelessness and helplessness?
Okay, let me say something. As the Bible says, even David, he says, "Why are you downcast, O my soul? Put your hope in God and bless the Lord, O my soul." So all of us, whether we like it or not, things around us will happen that will bring us down. And so I would say that sometimes a loss, sometimes unmet expectations, things around us will take us to that place. And so as children of God, we really need to then draw on our faith, one, putting our hope in God, sometimes going back to the word to see what is God saying. And David is a good example about being able to pull himself up. When we talk about when he came back from war and all his family had been captured and everything, and the people who were with him almost ganged up on him. He was like, "We followed you and look at what has happened to us." And what did he do? He was able to separate himself and go to God and build himself up to be able to even re-lead again. So putting our hope in God is one thing. And Pastor Asari mentioned earlier about skill. And sometimes I really believe that we really need to learn soft skills. And again, as Ecclesiastes 10:10 talks about, just paraphrasing, that if you have a dull axe and you're trying to cut something, it takes more time. But when you sharpen that axe, you cut it very quickly. And that is what skill does. So sometimes we need to learn some of these soft skills of communicating and being able to even deal with conflict management, and things like that, because it really helps us when in our stressful situation. Like Pastor Asari was saying, Reverend Asari was saying, I mean, being able to know what is it that is causing me the stress and what do I need, even being able to identify what it takes, because whatever is causing the stress could be different things. So it's very, very important that we are able to identify what is taking us there. And then if it means that we have to seek counseling, then we do. We should always know that, like our other pastor said, we are human and we don't know it all. We don't have it all. And it's very, very important that we accept that and really seek help when we need it, and knowing where to seek help.
Right.
Now, it's also important to understand that not every depression is caused by, yes, a lot is caused by how we process things in our mind. As a man thinketh, so he is. Your self-esteem, so many things may affect your depression or your depressed mood, right? Or the things you are dealing with, how you are telling, all those are true. But it is also important to realize that there is clinical depression, right? Where people have certain things going on with them chemically that cause their brain to feel depressed. If you are a Christian and you are clinically depressed and you are prescribed antidepressant and you are taking antidepressant, it does not make you a weak Christian. It does not mean that you don't have faith. I am a pastor. Sometimes when my head is hurting and I am tired and I know I have not rested, I take a painkiller and sleep. I don't go in the name of Jesus, head be healed. I know why my head is hurting. I have not rested. I have not done what I'm supposed to do. I need some rest. I may take a painkiller. It doesn't make me faithless. If yours is a chemical imbalance and it's clinical depression, sometimes women give birth. They have postpartum depression, right? Postpartum depression. I've met women who don't even want to touch their baby or see their babies or whatever it is. It is not Satan. It is not the devil. it is part of life. Yes, prayer helps, but let me chip that in before I get crucified for Pastor saying this.
Thank you very much, because that was
what you're saying is very true. And somebody used this interesting example that if you're a Christian and you say because you're a Christian you not take medication or you not take any aid, then what about then don't wear shoes? He's saying that shoes is an aid. So just imagine you have to walk through stones and things that will cut your feet, and they are
don't drive.
Yes, so I think it's all part of what we're talking about earlier about the face and the what society and how we have processed what a minister should be. And so I think we have then put ourselves in that superhero mode where it's almost like, no, you can't take medication. Anytime you take medication, then that means you are off. And maybe, so we all need to be very careful, and like what Pastor said, every situation demands what needs to be done. So it could be clinical, it could not be clinical. If it's clinical, you do the right thing. If it's not clinical, you do the right thing. So you can't put everything in one space, case by case.
Can I touch on that? Yeah, can I? Am I heard? I know I speak very low tone, so if I'm not heard, please prompt me. I very much agree with all that has been said earlier, but I also look at what is very important for us to realize. Number one, knowing the cause is important, but most often than not, people who are actually depressed, they do not know. They say, I don't know why. They have depressive episodes. We have types. Some of these can be seasonal. And some people too, it doesn't matter. They get it from time to time. They get bouts of it. But what is very important is getting treatments that are non-medical first. Normally in UK, we say that the first form of treatment should be therapy. Talking therapy has always been recommended as the first form of treatment for depression. Now, why do I say talking therapy? Or other means of therapy, that is even mingling with people, because one of the signs is that you get so isolated or you get so low that you don't want to do anything. And these are some of the things that you have to start doing by getting somebody to help and support you. And that is where the church becomes very important in looking after our mental health. Why do I use the church? Because the church is a place that we go to meet people. There are a lot of activities that goes on there. Remember the story of Saul when he got depressed? It was the sound of the music that lifted his mood out. Anytime he gets depressed, the Bible says that he gets the minstrel too. That's why David ended up in his court because of depression. Now, music has a part to play. We have music therapy as a form of treating depression. I'm sure we should be aware of it. So going to the church does help an awful lot of people, especially if you are isolated, lonely, and you have this form, because the prolongedness of those loneliness as self-isolation or withdrawal leads to deep end of the depression. So getting a place to go to, it could be a church, it could be any place that you can socialize, mingle and meet people, talk and have some activities, and will go a long way to reduce it. Quite apart from that, if you don't have these things, go for a walk, do exercise, do gym, relax a little bit more. Very important for me, which I tell a lot of people what they don't do. Sometimes you have to do something we call self-soothing. You got to treat yourself. I was telling to an old friend, college friend of mine. I said, when was the last time you treated yourself? She said, what do you mean? When was the last time you went to the salon and said, I want the latest style of hair put on my hair? When was the last time you said, I'm going for a pedicure, manicure? Not that you're going out. Go treat yourself. Go and get these people, those who do face, what are they called?
Facials.
No, not facial. They have a special term. Makeup artist.
Okay.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Go sit down. Let someone do it. I said, how do you feel when? I said, sometimes I do that. I'll go to the barbers. The fact that somebody is cutting my hair for 30 minutes is even therapeutic in itself. I told her, she's a lady, and it was not being flirtatious also. I said, how do you feel when somebody touches your head or hair? She started laughing. I said, go to salon, get somebody to do your, it can be 30 minutes or an hour. That alone is therapeutic. Go out dressed. You're not going to look for a man or a woman. You're not dressing for them. Feel good. A sound body brings a sound mind. I did tell her, I said, how do you feel when somebody tells you that you're looking good today? She went, it makes me feel happy. I said, that 30 seconds of you feeling happy can carry you throughout the day, because you know that you look good, you feel good, and that will carry you. So looking after our physical health, our what I call outlook, goes a long way to help our mental health, especially when we have low self-esteem, or we value ourselves very lowly. Sometimes you walk down the street and someone looking at you and look at your dress or your shoe or how your hair is done or how you're looking, and not that they fancy or they're interested in you. It could be the same sex or opposite sex. Once they begin to commend what you're wearing, it makes you feel good. So I told her, wake up in the morning, even when you're going to shop or whatever, dress good, feel good, wear good, buy good things. And she's rich, she's got the money. I said, you have to feel good within yourself. As soon as somebody says that to you, it makes you feel better. So we need to begin to learn how to treat ourselves good. It doesn't have to take a lot of money to do that. You have to make that conscious effort. That I am going to feel good. I don't feel happy these days, but how can I cheer myself up? There is a saying in Ghana, happy yourself. You got to do something that will make you feel happy. Nobody's going to do for you. But sometimes when you go to therapy, and the therapist will support you, motivate you, encourage you to do these things, so that you, from time to time, you feed back to them. So, I mean, talking therapy is one that I always go.
I will say that our culture too doesn't help us sometimes, because our culture is not used to that, and so it's almost like when we have surplus income, that's when the rich is the one that does all that. Even when it comes to taking a leave, you realize that sometimes when it's time to take leave, people would sell their leave and still stay in their company. It's like we don't want to leave. We don't know. We are always looking at the money side. But when you are talking about wellness, it's more than even physical health. And so there needs to be a lot of education in terms of mental health, that you are doing. The leave was given to you for you to take time off and rest your body. So you realize that people are tired and they are still there. You have people who have accommodated 3 years or 4 years of leave, and they would rather sell it and keep on going, not realizing that you are rather running yourself down. So our culture, Ghanaian culture, or sometimes African culture, because we are all, it's almost like we are in for the money, trying to make as much money as we can to build something. The idea of rest, or the Osofo going to sit at the beach, can't he be praying instead? And so that mind, and when you're talking about stresses and depressions, you have a lot of men of God who are not taking time off, not even spending quality time with their families. We are doing the work of God. So it's almost like, we have to do the work of God. And yes, that is it. But being able to put things in their appropriate, the balance, I think the balance and understanding what wellness means. I mean, it's more than just getting up in the morning and being able to put up your clothes. It's different dimensions, and being able to bring them all together and bring the balance is very, very important. It affects the depression, the stress, and all that.
Right.
Yeah, and it's really important to also realize that even God, 6 days He created the world. On the seventh day He rested. When He made the laws for the Israelites, He says, 6 days you shall rest. The seventh day is a Sabbath. Ancient Jewish cultures seriously observed the Sabbath. It was a must. Even Jesus, when He had to heal somebody on the Sabbath day, the Pharisees were looking at Him as, is this guy going to really work on the Sabbath day? Even healing, they considered it work, right? So we have to be careful about the rest. Now, let me chip in this also. One of the things we must also realize is that when something is going on wrong with you, right? Acknowledge it. Don't be shy. Don't be embarrassed about it. There is no stigma to having a mental health issue. Whether you are dealing with depression, you are dealing with anxiety, you are dealing with low self-esteem, you are dealing with kind of trauma, whatever it is, do not be shy to talk about it. Do not be afraid to talk about it. I know that in our kind of environment, especially Black and brown people, when you start talking about, oh, I feel depressed or I feel anxious, or I'm having this, people look at you funny like you are crazy. There is not, we are all crazy, if you want to put it that way. The line between sanity and insanity is very thin, So don't let the stigmatization that is out there affect you. If you really need help, in addition to treating yourself well and practicing all the good coping skills and self encouraging things that we have spoken about, make sure that you seek and get the help that you need, whether it's from a licensed counselor, a psychologist, or a psychiatrist. If you need help, get it. Don't feel stigmatized.
Thank
Can
you.
I
Thank you so
balance
much.
this?
Can I just say hello to our viewers? So I can see Nang Sola watching from Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you so much for tuning in. Could you continue to share the link with your family and friends? And Healing Wings, thanks for all your comments. So one of the things you said was it's important that as a church body, we keep talking about these challenges that people encounter, and we need to begin to start normalizing these things. You're also talking about the fact that, there should be no stigma associated with depression. And yes, you said you love the idea of music therapy. And yeah, as a minister, if you think that you shouldn't be, if it's okay for a minister to be going on antidepressants or taking medication, then maybe you shouldn't wear shoes, just as Auntie Amy said, because shoes are also an aid. So yeah, thanks for all the comments. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. Thank you.
Can I bring a balance to our
Go for
treatment
it.
options? The balance I want to bring is that we should not lose the fact that our faith also manifests. If you have faith enough to pray and believe in God, nothing stops you from doing that. The Bible very much tells us that God is able to do exceeding abundantly above all that we can think of. So if your faith level is able to hold you, but if your faith has not helped you and you want to seek help, there's nothing wrong in seeking help, because for all you know, the person that you're going to sit in front of has that knowledge that God has given to be able to help you. It does not stop you from seeking help, but you can also rely on your faith if faith will work for you. It doesn't mean that you have to also stop taking medication when you know that it is not working.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We've spent a bit of time on depression. I'm just wondering, is it possible that people get so withdrawn and get hopeless and lose interest in life that they don't want to commit suicide, but rather they would like to commit homicide? Is that an extreme form of mental health? Or could anyone just pick up on that and then speak into it? Thank you.
Most of the homicides are out of anger. Sometimes we say they are psychopaths and all that. Out of jealousy, I don't know, for whatever reason, before I got invited to this program, I've been watching some forensic episodes and how some people die and all that. They kill people. It's out of anger and jealousy, especially in relationship. If I'm not gonna have you, who will have you? Can we refer ourselves to the Bible? Amnon and Tamar.
Yeah.
What God, Amnon depressed, fancied his own sister, right? So much so that he stopped eating. He went into depression.
Yes.
Now, until you get me this, then he's confided in somebody. They use a trick, got the sister into bed forcefully. Then what ended? Sister's brother killed Amnon. Why? Anger. So that is why it's important for us to look after our mental health. No, I wasn't here in the beginning, but mental health is as important as our physical health. People find it so easy to go and see doctor when they have diabetes or high blood pressure or asthma or anything. They don't see anything wrong with it. But once there is their mental health, they think that they will be classified as insane, and so they would not go. There is nothing wrong with that. Let me come back to what I was saying. So if we are able to know that this person, I use Amnon and Tamar's issue, it's out of jealousy, out of emotions. His emotions affected him to do something very bad, and that led to his death. Somebody's emotion, it triggered on one person, raped another person, the brother killed. In relationships, it does happen. If I'm not going to have you, you are not going to have it. I either kill the lady or kill the man. It's all because of our mindset, our brain. We will get to a time that we cannot hold it until we do what we know can land us in prison. We will do it irrespective of the consequences. We know there are some other people who are pathologically known to have that problem, or biologically known to have that problem. But aside that, there are a high number of people who were not born killers, or they are not psychopaths, or they developed it within the society. They allow the psychosocial wellness to go outside the norm so that they don't care what they do to get what they want. Amnon Tama situation here. So jealousy, emotions, spiraling down and getting worse, getting you angry, agitated, leads to all those things. We got to watch it.
Yeah, and when a person thinks that their depression is caused by somebody else, that leads them to be angry, and that channel of anger can lead to homicide or a form of violence. 2 years ago in Florida, there was a pastor that killed his wife, went to the wife's work. She was a banker, went to the front desk and shot the wife, plain, because here you are divorcing me, whatever issues they have. That's his thinking. He's wrong in his thinking. This is going to be the end of my ministry. I am nothing, whatever he was telling himself, right? But at the back of his mind, all this is happening because you decided to divorce me. The condition I'm feeling because of you. And because of that, he thought that it was okay to shoot and kill the wife. He's in prison now. I don't know which is worse. But the bottom line is that whenever we don't correct the wrong way in which we are thinking, it will lead us to a place. There are instances of murder, suicide. There are all kinds of instances. 2 or 3 weeks ago, here in America, one of the greatest founder of the Republican Party, he was trying to do murder suicide. He shot his wife and shot himself. Fortunately, his wife didn't die, but he died. It was on the news just about 3 weeks ago. Right here in the United States, very well-known man. So when people think that things are going on with them, I'm not happy, I don't want to be here again, and I don't need you to be here when I'm not here, whatever. They do all kinds of things. And therefore, we cannot take anything for granted.
Yeah. So even when the Bible says that we should not let the sun go down on the anger, we take some of these things for granted because you are chewing on something over and over again. As Reverend Asaribi is saying, you are chewing over something over and over again, and before you realize what you are thinking is building up a feeling, and it affects your action. So because that's how we have been wired. So whatever you are thinking affects how you feel, and then it will develop into an action. So if I feel this woman has brought me down, and I'm a powerful man of God, now my look at where I am now because of her, my ministry is gone down. Before you realize, if you don't take care, you do something that you're not supposed to do. So it then tells us that when we all find ourselves in things not going right, we really need to seek help immediately. So if it's a relationship problem, be it a work problem, whatever it is, financial problem, we need to seek help immediately. Like everybody is saying, when we are talking about wellness, we have maybe 7 dimensions, different dimensions, they all interact with each other. So if your physical health goes down, it can cause you depression. If money wise, financial wise, it can cause you depression. If the environment you find yourself in is not inviting, it can cause you depression. So we really need to be looking at all that. As soon as we see there's a distress around us, deal with it immediately and not let it drag so it doesn't get us there.
Right, thank you. So we are almost getting to
the final point is always talking and talking and talking. We got to talk, irrespective of what we're going to. We really need to talk.
We need to talk. We need to have the people we can talk to, their confidants, their counts, their mentors, their good friend. You know, God made us relational, and so I really don't believe when people say I don't want to be with, I don't want to talk, I don't want to. I mean, you don't need to have a lot of friends, but you need to at least have one person you can be yourself, either an accountability partner, something. You need somebody you can talk to, because all of us don't have all the answers. And sometimes it gets to that point where for leaders, for pastors, it's even a lonelier place. So you definitely need to have either a fellow colleague or a fellow a mentor, somebody that you can talk to is very, very important. We can't do it alone.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Pastor Sorry, B, you know, earlier on you were talking about the fact that sometimes when, like, especially as a minister, you tend to go through that emotional roller coaster, because as you are relating with people, you tend to have like the secondhand effect of everything they are going through. Do you think as a result of that, maybe ministers should be trained to handle counseling? Do you think there should be like a bit of formal training that all ministers should undergo or something? What do you think?
Yes, and yes. You know, I don't know how a lay person gets born again today and decides to cast out a demon tomorrow. Should a person learn how to deal with demons, understand demons before they cast out demons? Yes, right. And I'm saying this because we are talking about things that anybody can cast out a demon, but you need to know how to go about it. You know, in the same way, when it comes to counseling, there are certain things that, you know, when people are called into ministry, a lot of times they come in because they want to preach the gospel, but they don't have a full understanding of the scope of all the other things they are going to deal with, you know. And a lot of people become ministers because they are passionate for God. But if you are not just an evangelist and you have to deal with people and handle a church, you realize that the preaching part and the teaching part is actually a smaller proportion of what you are going to actually deal with. More of the work is not the holding of the Bible or the preaching of the word or the Bible study or the follow-up. More of the work is dealing with people individually and as a family. That means that you must be equipped to deal with the people that you have been assigned to. So if you don't do that, two things are going to happen. One is that you are going to either cause damage, emotional damage to the people you are dealing with, because you don't fully understand the scope of what you are doing. So somebody may be in an abusive relationship or a relationship that is very unhealthy, but all you know is that Bible says that, you know, and you may quote Bible instead of telling them, hey, the two of you need to separate for now, or whatever it is, you know. And these are things that men of God that are trained can do. If a man of God doesn't understand, say, oh, sister, you know, stay there, let's pray about it. The sister's mouth is swollen, her eyes are black. Why is she still staying there? You know, so that's what I mean by you might do damage. You know, you might do damage because you don't know what you are doing, or somebody may bring you a problem. Their child is dealing with a peculiar mental health issue that may need medicine or something, and you'll be there casting out demons, or, you know, if somebody has a liver problem and they have to go to the hospital, you don't keep them in church and pray for them, believing that their liver will be healed. Maybe, yes. I'm not saying maybe, yes, God can do it, but there are other ways. If somebody has cancer and chemo can work, Why do you say that, hey, we caught it early, but because of that, in the name of Jesus, you will not step foot in the hospital? So those are some of the damages that if you don't know, you can do. And then to your own self, because you can take on second-hand trauma, you know, if you are not trained in how to deal with people's situation and afterwards do a personal good debriefing. And these are things that are actually taught. I am a therapist. Every week, I work with a team of psychologists and therapists. Every single week, we sit down, we do staffing, and we do debriefing. And then we will ask, is there anybody dealing with any cases that are having an effect on you? And then we as a team and as colleagues, you know, we help each other. Hey, you can do this, you can do that, you can do that, or this is what you need to do, or hey, we need to take this case from your hands because you are dealing with transference and counter-transference issues, right? But whereas when it's a pastor, he might be dealing with transference or counter-transference issues and has no clue. And so in the end, you are damaging yourself and you are putting yourself in a place that you are not equipped to deal with. So yes, pastors need training. And this is what I'll also say. If you realize that the issue is beyond your ability to deal with, don't be a superhuman being. Refer it out. It doesn't mean you are less spiritual, or it doesn't mean that God has not called you. You are just not equipped to deal with that. You know, when you have a Mercedes-Benz and it is faulty, you don't take it to the Hyundai fitter because it will spoil your Mercedes for you. You know, in the same way, if you are not equipped to deal with something, don't deal with it. Refer it out.
So again, scale. We always have to build our skills. So whatever it is, we have to, if we didn't get a training, we need to just get training. Sometimes, you know, find courses, things to up any skill that you feel you are short of. And more learning, I mean, knowledge is power, they say, and the more we learn, the more we have the tools to deal with what we have to deal with. So,
thank you. Let me go to, based on what Auntie Amy just said, I'm going to come to Pastor Alex and then back to Auntie Amy or anyone from the state. So what sorts of resources are available? Assuming someone is watching us, now mind you, have people watching us from all over the place, people from East Africa, people from Zambia. What sorts of resources are available to any minister who is, let's say, thinking, oh, maybe I should do this training? Let's start with Pastor Alex. What sorts of resources are available if someone wants to be trained to be able to handle or deal with counseling and that sort of thing?
Okay. I'm not a professional counselor, but I've learned counseling through my work. Number one, in ministry, and also number two, I'm a mental health professional. I've been for quite a number of years. And as part of what I do day to day, talk to people in need. So I've developed that skill. I've done a little bit. I call myself not a professional counselor, but I've done a little bit of CBT in psychosis and a few other things. That is where my background is. But then, these modern days, we are in a global village. So if any minister is interested in getting help in counseling, I'm sure the easiest one is to go online and check. It might not be for ministers only. You can do it globally, and it should. I don't have one on top of my head at the moment, but then these days a lot of things are very accessible online. If you Google it, you get a few other things. Counseling for, if you Google counseling or professional counseling for ministers, I'm sure something will come up, and then you can. I'm sure Minister Asari will be best in this area if he's a professional counselor to see what other resources are there or sources that people can go to.
And Auntie Amy, sorry to jump in front of you, but here is the thing: there are many resources. The problem we have is that, you know, in the olden days, before somebody became a pastor, a reverend minister, whether it was the Methodist or the Presby or the Anglican or the Catholic or whatever, they went through formal institution of training. They did a couple of years, 3 years, 4 years. And one of the things that they learned in seminary, because those churches were already established, and they had gone through some of the things we are talking now, they made sure that in the seminary schools, Bible schools, proper Bible schools that they went, they incorporated Christian counseling. And forgive me if I, if I use the word wrongly. Sometimes people say Bible school, but it's really, it's really, you know. But in the proper Bible schools that they went, you know, there were courses on counseling, courses on behavior, courses on this leadership, that, you know, so they were formally trained and better equipped. Now, these days, a lot of people are one-man churches or as the Spirit leads, you know, and then as the Spirit leads them and they are called, people don't seek the formal training. And so they come short in certain areas because maybe you were a building technology expert or an engineer or something, and now all of a sudden you are a pastor and you find yourself ill-equipped. So there are many courses that are out there. In fact, there are thousands and thousands of places that are doing pastoral counseling, Christian counseling, whatever. Enroll yourself in a school. You can't do Christian counseling and not learn some of these things. If pastoral counseling, whatever, you know, there are so many courses out there for people who are watching us and who are in the United States. There is an association called American Association of Christian Counselors. You know, they do certification programs. Yearly, they have conferences. I've been into a couple of those myself, you know, where lay pastors are trained and they have a whole lot of courses. And even for those who are outside America, you can do certain courses online, you know, and they talk about some of these things, not just Bible, so that you'll be better equipped for ministry. Auntie Amy.
And even Ghana is now really pushing for all lay counselors to be licensed. So all church married counselors and everything should be licensed. And as everybody is saying, even in Ghana, I remember when my interest in counseling was developing, I joined a College of Counseling and Psychology. So you have accredited places like that that you could go to. And so I would say that make sure that wherever you go, it is accredited. And then join, if you are really into counseling, join a group, like he's saying, either Christian counselors, you know, some group, and then they would require that you do some CPD. So there are always top-ups. I mean, I have joined groups, and so because of that, I have to do CPDs, and that keeps you upgraded in terms of what is going on all the time. So as we are talking, you have to join some group for support. So if you don't join these groups and you need the support in terms of referring people, who are you referring them to? Mm-hmm. So, and then it is within these groups, you build that fraternity with other people. And if you need help yourself, you can fall onto them. If you need to refer or bounce, you know, with somebody in terms of a case you're handling and you don't know what to do, then they are there to help. We should always realize that there's help out there. We can't do it all by ourselves. We always join a group.
Thank you so much. I want to say hello to Joyce, who's joining us from Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you so much, Joyce, for joining us. I know it's almost at the end of the program, but please make sure you are sharing this with your friends and family. There's so much in it for everyone. And Healing Wings has this to say. She says, in my humble opinion, pastors can learn the skills, but they cannot be counselors for ethical reasons. Their job is to collaborate with professional counselors outside of the church and refer church members or refer people who need it. Does anyone want to add or build on what Healing Wings just typed up?
I agree to disagree.
Yeah.
I agree when you know that you've reached your limits, but I also disagree when you know that you are professionally helping them out to a point that you know you have resolved the problem. In anything, just as Pastor Asari Vidiako said, sometimes we need to know our limit. We need to know how to refer out when we are not able to. They will always come to us, but when we see that this is beyond us, we got to refer them out to a professional counselor or somebody that you know that does very, very well. Not only in this area, if you want to spread it, There are certain cases that comes to you that you know that this person has got that special grace for that. And so you refer them out. You know, there is no shame in referring somebody out when you know that this is out of your depth. So I agree, but also disagree.
Yeah.
In that sometimes we can
Same
do a
here.
good job of it.
Yeah, same here. At least the pastor has to have an idea. So when somebody comes, at least being able to diagnose, to know whether I cannot handle it or handle it is also important. So that is why lay counseling, at least you need some kind of training. So if somebody comes with a problem, at least you could be able to do the initial diagnosis and then appropriately refer.
So I think that the person is talking in terms of confidentiality, and that is one of the problems where sometimes pastors like, I'm a professional counselor. Whatever you tell me, I'm bound by oath to keep my mouth closed. I cannot disclose your issues in church. Some pastors preach with other. Unfortunately, we all sit in churches and we see what happens, you know. And so when it comes to ethics, some pastors don't know how to draw the line. So I think that's the concern of the person there. Besides not realizing you can't handle an issue and pushing it forward. When you realize that you cannot be ethical, then maybe you don't need to. You know, a church member comes to confirm in you or say, hey, pastor, I have a problem. I'm married, but I'm sleeping with this person. What do you do? Call the husband and tell, hey, what's your wife? What do you know? All of us say, hey, we rebuke it. We have to call your husband to discuss it. So these are some of the things, you know, that are dicey for pastors, especially if you are not a fully licensed psychologist or professional counselor, where you don't know where the limits and the boundaries are. But if a pastor is able to properly learn the limits and boundaries, I believe that they can do wonderful things. Because truth be told, a lot of times people go to their pastors first, you know, before they seek professional counseling, because they may not even know what they are dealing with. And that's how sometimes the pastor, you can sit with them, do a good assessment with them, you know, through good emotional intelligence, whatever it is, and kind of refer them if you can deal with it. So the pastors can't be eliminated totally from the line of treatment. But then if you know that you are not equipped for this, don't deal with it. Send it out quickly.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much for pouring yourselves out to us this evening. So I was thinking of that this was our final question, and I was going to ask you for your final words. And then suddenly I had this feeling that we should talk about the pastor's children and their mental health. So in 2 minutes or 1 minute each, very quickly, I'll start with Pastor Sari, because he nodded first. And then anyone who is happy to pick it up would just, but yeah, I'm not sure how far or how much you want to talk about it, but yeah.
So pastors' children are the most unfairly treated. Let me put it that way. And that's why a lot of times you hear pastors' children vow that, as for me, I will never ever be a pastor. Right? The pastor's child is as ordinary as any other child. The pastor's child is not the pastor. The pastor's child is not the standard for holiness or purity. The pastor's child is not. But unfortunately, in the church, you hear church members, oh, you are the PK, you are the pastor's kid, and you are doing this. You are the pastor's kid, and you are doing that. Your father or your mother is the one. Pastors are not only men, by the way, they are women pastors. Your mother is telling us, teaching us this, and you, after all, yes, that's their mother teaching them. That's not them teaching you, right? So a lot of times what happens is that people don't realize or recognize pastors' children as outside pastors. And that becomes a problem for the children. And a lot of times what you see is rebellion, because they are, quote and unquote, being forced to do something that they don't desire to do. So a regular person, maybe you got born again before you decided to do Bible study. A pastor's kid is expected to do Bible study, whether you are born again or not. This is the way. You decided to choose Christ. They don't have an option. So a lot of times what happens is that there is a lot of rebellion in the, it's a whole topic on their own, or on its own, right? And that's why time and time again, you see pastors' kids rebel and do the opposite of what is expected of them. Life as a pastor's kid is very, very difficult. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, thank you. Auntie Amy, so just in relation to that pastor's kid, let's say there's a pastor's kid who is watching us, they know they are depressed. What should they do? And of course, they are not going to talk to their parents or whoever their pastor is because of society's expectation. What should that pastor's kid do now?
So exactly what we are telling their pastor, they also need to find somebody to talk to, because the pressure on them is great. You know, they are used as, if nobody is there, they are used for everything. They are used for examples. They are used for, there's too much pressure on them. And sometimes they don't get, how should I say, they don't get to experience their fathers and mothers the way others do. It's almost like everybody is taking their time. What about us? Because it's like that is rushing out again because somebody needs help somewhere, and I need help, and I don't even get to talk to him. So they have their own thing going. So we all need to be very sensitive with them and pray for them. And they need to also find a support group, find people that they could talk to. But that is, we are talking about where we all come from, that it's not easy to find people to talk to. So we don't even know we can talk to somebody, but there's always somebody around. Sometimes it might be talking to a teacher or somebody, a grown-up friends, but find somebody grown. And I think we parents should also not be hurt when sometimes they don't come to us and they go somewhere else. If anything, we should make it available for them to see that it's okay maybe to talk to, or if we feel they need help, being able to guide them to either another pastor or somebody we trust that they could pour out to. I found out with my own children, sometimes they feel more comfortable talking to somebody than me. And it's okay. If you don't take it, you might feel a little bit jealous. I'm there. Why not talking to me? Well, so we should also take ourselves out of that and encourage them. And if anything, be able to point people to them that they can talk to. So we make sure that they are getting correct counseling instead of from friends, because their friends may not be able to help them.
Thank you. Pastor Alex.
Yep, very important topic and a very interesting subject. I'll take it on 3 angles. Number 1, relationship building with your children, family. Okay. Number 2, establishing rapport with them. Okay. And number 3, confidence. Why am I saying this? There is a saying that charity begins at home, and rightly so when it comes to ministry. As much is expected of he who much is given. I'll tell you practical experiences that I have. So if we are able to build that relationship with our kids and our family at home, it helps. If it does help, children choose who they want to go to, whether it's mother and father. They'll build confidence in one person. They always go to somebody that they think they can get away with, and not quote unquote. They'll have that relationship and rapport with them. If it is, so be it. At least you have one person in their home that they can always go to cry upon them, tell them what their issues are, because they know that if they go to the other person, they will be told off, or they will say that they are bad or so. Relationship building is very, very important, and rapport establishing, and then also making sure that they have your confidence. Okay. The 4th one I want to add to this is also having what we call systemic family setting, of systemic family therapy. We can have it at home without getting a professional therapist coming in. There can be a weekly or monthly meetings. Let them express their emotions. Let them tell you what they don't want at home. agree with them. Tell them why you tell them not to do A, B, C, or D, and let them tell you why they think that they want to do that. Sometimes it might not be your way. It might be their way. But then let them know that if their way does not go well, they cannot come back and blame you. So we need, as ministers and as a family, we need to have these 4 things in place. Relationship building, establishing rapport with them. Some people will choose who they go to as a family. Then let them have confidence in you. There are certain information that could be highly confidential to them. Maybe something that somebody at school told them. They want to get advice from you. It does not mean that because you know the relatives, the parents of the child, you go tell them. Because that one, you have broken their trust and they cannot come back to you anymore if their friends get to know or the parents get to know. But find a way of helping them. So when we do this thing, to me, what is very, very, very important, I know we pray together, we study Bible together and all that, but let's have a monthly or a weekly or 2 weekly family meetings, discuss about everything, anything. You can raise the topic or they can raise the topic. Let them take in turns. I think that will help the home in managing our emotions and expectations in the home, and it go a long way to help. I have practical examples that I can put my hands up on. So these 4 things do go a long way to help the family home.
Thank you, Pastor Alex, and thank you, Auntie Amy and Pastor Asari for sharing so much with us. Joyce, I think it kind of ties in with what Pastor Alex said, isn't it? And you're also saying that sometimes you think it's as a result of seeking attention. So if you're having the family meetings where they can open up and talk to everyone, like either they decide to talk to mom or talk to dad, then that is going to be really good. I know with regards to the pastor's case, that's a whole subject altogether, but that's something we will come to at some point. That's something we'll come to at some point. Let me give you a few minutes to share your final thoughts. Maybe as you are preparing or something really on your heart, but sadly, I didn't go in that line. I didn't ask any question about it. I'm going to start with Auntie Amy, and then I'll come to Pastor Alex and finish off with Pastor Asari B. What are your final words to us?
I would say that let us take mental health very seriously. I know that from where most of us are coming from, mental health is not a thing that we really talk about because we are thinking about putting food on the table. But then to be able to even do that well, we really need to look at our mental health. We really need to read more about it and know that it's not a stigma to seek help if we think we can't cope well or we think something is wrong with us. And I'll say we really need to build our support system. As we are now becoming so urbanized, the old systems that we used to have are breaking down. We used to live in big compound homes. We were in touch with our grandmothers and our aunties and all that. And when you can't talk to your parents, grandma is there. Your confidant is grandma or the auntie in the next room. Now, all those things are not there anymore. Maybe that is why mental health issues are becoming more rampant in our societies now. Because when you go to the Western societies, it's more individualistic. Me, my family, me, myself, and I, or you alone and you are in your corner. But let us appreciate the culture. I know we have issues, and now we decide that we want to basically be on ourselves, me, myself, and I. But we need to look at our culture, the rich culture that we have that is built on relations, and build a support system around that. If not anything, COVID taught us that we need to have support systems around us. So when we get logged in, we know where to go and who to talk to keep our sanity. That is what I'll say for now.
Thank you, Auntie Amy. Thank you. Pastor Alex.
We have a duty as individuals to look after our own mental health. What the Bible says that we should work out our own salvation with fear and trembling. We should take that into consideration when when it comes to our mental health. We need to look after our emotions. We need to look after our psychosocial well-being, so to say. Because when we don't look after this, that's when it triggers on to other things that we don't want to see in our society. To be quite honest, there is a saying that you don't have to be mentally ill to suffer from mental illness. And it's true. About a higher percentage of us didn't have any mental illness, but as along the line, with societal stresses and issues and psychological issues can let us develop mental health issues. I know, especially most of us who have traveled abroad, I was not part of the very beginning. Most of us who have traveled abroad, there is a very high percentage of people getting mental illness due to their psychosocial stresses. I'm in UK now. I hear the story of people coming from Ghana. I heard some today. I heard some yesterday. I heard some a few weeks ago, who came on the premise of getting a job. They came on the certificate of whatever they call COP, not getting jobs. Where does it leave them? People are living at the mercy of other people. Where does it leave them? Some people are even married. Where does it leave them? Is that person going to end up in a marriage is going to end up in a married person's house and room and do what they would rather not do it? Why would such a person not get depressed? And when they get depressed, are they going to live out? You know, they will live this. They might not tell anybody though, but they will live with it for the rest of their lives, unless they get to know that yes, you've done it. Yes, it is unlike you, quote unquote, sinful. But talk to somebody about how you're feeling about it. Get it addressed. Get it validated. In psychology, once certain thing, bad or good behavior is validated, you get to know that you are not alone in this situation. There is a way out for you. We cannot be, especially if you're like me, Reverend Titilate knows me a little bit. I'm a very reserved person. Me talking here today, if it's not got to do with ministry, you don't hear me. I'm a very reserved person, but it does not help us. We got to talk. You have to talk. You got to talk about the issues and the problems that you have. Have a confidant, somebody you go to. And I say, church is always the place to go to. Church, we are there for you. We might not have all the professional counselors, but at least it's your first step or first shop to step. When you're having psychosocial problems, we are there to listen to you. And if we cannot help you in prayer, in counseling, we can signpost you to the right place. God bless us all.
Amen. Thank you. Pastor Asarubi.
Thank you so much. It's been an enlightening program. The truth of the matter is that one of the things that everybody needs in whatever they are dealing with is social support. You know, the church is one of the places where you can get support, whether you are dealing with grief or anxiety or depression or whatever it is, you know. In addition to that, you know, scripture says that a false balance is an abomination unto God, right? And so if you look just at the counseling piece and not see the God piece, then you are missing it. The same way if you look just at the God piece and not look at the counseling piece, you are missing it. So it is very important for us to be properly balanced. You know, let's make God the center of it all and get the help we need when we need help. Don't be afraid to talk about how you feel. And at the same time, I will say that having hope and confidence that with God all things are possible will also bring somebody out of anxiety or depression. For any emotion a person is dealing with, there are comparisons in the Bible. But the scripture tells us that it was written for our example, it was written for our rebuke, it was written for our correction and all that. You know, for me, if I'm dealing with any issue in my life, yes, and I have my own issues too, like everybody here, right? What I do is I look at the Bible, look at examples in the Bible. How did they go about it? You know, so that's why I say that we have to be all balanced. You know what the scripture says, know what the scripture says about anxiety, know what the scripture says about depression, know what the scripture says about leadership, marriage, whatever it is, and use that as your guideline, you know, and that will help you also. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to our viewers. Thank you, because without you, it would just be a conversation among the four of us and it wouldn't go very far. But thank you. I know some of you just love to just watch in silence and you don't comment, but thank you. We still do love you. And thank you to those who type and they tell us what they are thinking and they ask us questions. Thank you especially to Healing Wings. I wish I knew the name behind Healing Wings. And then to find out what form of, the name is Healing Wings Support. So what form of support do you support? Do you give? Is it in relation to mental health?
I think I have an idea who the person is.
Right. Is there a way? Do they deal with mental health? Because maybe we could actually
I think I do know who is. I think, but I'll call the person before I confirm with you guys.
Oh, okay. All right.
I will
Okay.
call I think now it's ringing a bell to me.
Okay. Right.
If it is, I think the person is also a professional counselor.
Okay.
He's a person I'm thinking. I sent it to quite a few people. That's ringing a bell.
Right. Okay. Thank you. So she has managed to stay mysterious. She hasn't given very much away. Just sharing.
I think she's using her business thingy.
Right. But thank you so much. Yeah, and I'll touch base with you later. Maybe we could signpost people to your ministry so you could support them to get their mental healing. But thank you so much.
It'd be nice if it's also recorded. I don't know if it was, but if it's not, maybe another time.
Oh, this is on YouTube. This is on Facebook, so you can always revisit.
Okay.
You can always and let's just keep sharing. And usually what happens is some people watch in between and then they go back and they rewatch. And I usually go back and then just listen because there's always so much to learn from any of these programs. So thank you so much for making your Sunday afternoon. For those of you in the US, Sunday evening, Pastor Alex, thank you for making it available to us Wisdom Conference. We are really grateful. We pray that the good Lord will continue to bless you and bless your ministries and your families and all that you do. To our viewers, thank you once again. And we hope to see you same time next week for another edition of Wisdom Conference. God bless you and thank you. Bye.
God bless you too.
Thank you.